if she's allowed to get away with this, it's not 4 more years, it's forever more. There won't be another election. They've already telegraphed this, that we don't need to vote because artificial intelligence knows what's best for us. This is it. This is a do or die. There is no 4 more years. That's
I
over.
agree.
Hey guys, I hope you're having a lovely weekend before the most important election in human history. In fact, it will be Liberation Day or a descent into total tyranny. And stay tuned, because in this one, we've got 5.5 minutes of proof of what a lowlife, scumbag, Marxist, MK Ultra, tool of the deep state, Kamala Harris, actually is. Thanks so much for tuning in, friends. Before we start, just a quick word about our sponsor. Finding an honest doctor that's not following in the footsteps of Big Pharma can be pretty tricky. That's why millions of men and women have turned to one Texas doctor, and the 7 reasons he says anyone over the age of 50 should be drinking this. It's not milk or any other calcium-rich drink. Instead, it's a unique protein that naturally declines with age and is proven to significantly increase bone strength and soothe joint pain. It minimizes wrinkles and cellulite, enhances hair follicle thickness, and even reverses nail damage, with users reporting results in as little as 2 weeks. As a partner of the show, this Texas doc is offering SGT Report listeners up to 45% off his bone, joint, and ligament restoring formula at getnativepathcollagen.com/SGT. It has thousands of 5-star reviews and over 4 million jars sold. Every order comes with a 365-day money-back guarantee, so there is no risk to trying it today. SGT Report listeners can visit getnativepathcollagen.com/SGT to get up to 45% off while supplies last. The link is below. Hey friends, welcome back. Thank you so very much from the bottom of my heart. Thank you for tuning in to this important broadcast just a couple of days before the most important election in human history. In this interview, folks, we are going to reveal the horrible truth about Kamala Harris. It's monstrously dark. In addition to that, before we hit record, it was noted by our esteemed guest, Dr. Liebleet, that it is going to be Liberation Day or a descent into tyranny. We're talking about the election in just a few days. Dr. Liebleet, welcome back.
Thank you, Sean. It's a pleasure to be here on the most auspicious recording we're doing right before the most critical election in our lifetime, maybe our history.
Absolutely. And the CEO of CloudHub and our attorney friend Todd Callender is here. Todd, welcome back, sir.
Yeah, always my honor to be here with both of you. And by the way, Doctor, I agree your point, but it's more than that. The election isn't just showing up to vote. It's a show of force. If we don't show up and show we're interested and invested, we're done. We're in a do or die situation.
We really are. And Sean and Todd, that goes to a point that I've made a number of times in other interviews in our programs. We need to think of this election 2024 as our generation's Normandy. We are not facing kinetic warfare on the beaches of France the way our ancestors did in June 1944, but we are facing a bloody battle for our survival. And we either are going to die trying to save freedom in our constitutional republic and risk our lives and our livelihoods and our sacred honor as our ancestors did, or we're going to die in the ocean of bloodshed and tyranny under the Marxist regime that's coming.
That's no joke. That is not hyperbole. And I have to play about a 5.5-minute clip that will expose Kamala Harris for who she is, thanks to Candace Owens and the brilliant research she and her team have done about the genealogy, the history, the family history of this woman. She has lied about everything because she is an MK Ultra, perhaps CIA asset. So we'll get to that in just 1 second, but let me show you guys this. The most important election in American or perhaps human history is being meddled with by these damn machines all over the country.
James Carpenter. I just voted in the White Settlement election. I voted for one president, checked it on the video screen. When I got the paper ballot, it had the other candidate's name on it. Check your paper ballots, everybody.
Thank you, sir.
My name is Lucas Clark, and I voted here at White Settlement Library in Fort Worth. I was in line for about 45 minutes, and there were 2 people that came out and said that their ballots were changed. So everybody double check your printed out ballots.
Okay, these stories are all over the country, and of course, all over the country, people of color, immigrants apparently are walking in to vote, and nobody's checking their IDs. Now, we're going to add to the bad news. I got to play this from Patrick Byrne. I hope he's wrong, but the rig is in. I thought it might be too big to rig. We all did, and it is. I don't know how they can possibly certify a stolen election again. I don't know how that's going to work, but here's the dire warning from Patrick Byrne.
Folks, I've got some bad news for you, and I'm going to give it to you straight. I have sources inside the Kamala Harris operation, and I can tell you this. As of this morning, Kamala Harris and her people are 100% confident. They're not in the least bit worried. They are 100% confident, and they're saying, do not worry about it. Don't worry about the polls. Don't listen to the polls. We have this in the bag. And the Kamala Harris transition team has already been staffed, and it's all Barack Obama's staff. It's Barack Obama. It's his entire staff. The entire transition team is Barack Obama people. And they are not in the least bit worried. They're 100% confident. And that's the word that's reached me from somebody extremely well placed that they know and trust. And I've been told it's actually shocking how confident they are. It's almost with a little smirk that they're saying, do not believe anything you're hearing. We got no problem at all. Wait till you see what happens.
All right. I don't know if you guys want me to keep playing that, but
I want to say something.
Okay, yeah, go for it.
Two things. First and foremost, he's no slouch. He's a PhD in cryptology from Stanford University. I know the guy. Secondarily, God hates hubris. He hates hubris. And when the other side has the hubris, it is a tremendous weakness that we can take advantage of.
Just let me ask you this, though, about election integrity, about certifying another stolen election. Let me show you guys this. It's really important. Todd, as an attorney, you got to explain this to us. Right now, Lancaster, York, Monroe, and Cambria counties in Pennsylvania are investigating an alleged voter fraud scheme. Additional Pennsylvania counties may announce fraud investigations tomorrow. This is being documented all over the country. So how in the world, if they try to tell us with a straight face that this cackling Marxist witch won with 81 million votes, just like Joey did, how in the world are they going to certify that? That's not certifiable.
They're not. This is the point. They're jumping the shark for all of the non-Americans who never saw Happy Days and Fonzie jumping the shark. This is the moment in time where they've gone too far. The cheating is already happening. It's here for all of us to see and know and document. And this is the point. This is like a Fidel Castro election in Cuba. How do I know? Because I was there. And it's just a great giant joke. The question isn't whether the election is going to be certified or not. The question is whether the American people will tolerate it or not.
You're exactly right, Todd. And John Davidson, in a group that we are both in, posted a message yesterday that the fix is already in Pennsylvania. It's already been announced by an attorney that they plan to call it at 10 p.m. on election night for Kamala Harris. So they are already saying, they're showing everyone what they're doing, blatantly feel it. They are in your face pushing the illegal non-citizens through the line ahead of American citizens. And this brazenness is flaunting their tyrannical power.
Yes.
That's why I said at the beginning, it's no joke.
Yes.
It went into the bloodshed of Marxist tyranny because they will persecute all of those of us who don't stand for Marxism, who stand for the constitutional republic.
Okay. Yes, we are it. I mean, just literally, this is it for the earth, right? We are the only thing standing in the way of a global tyranny. You look at Klaus Schwab up there laughing his butt off because there's 146 countries that have already pledged their allegiance to BRICS, to doing away with the US dollar, amongst other things. They've already implanted their nanobots in everybody. Transhumanism is a thing right now, not in the future. It's not speculation. It's happening right now. The only question is whether we will tolerate it, Doctor.
You're right.
Let me play a clip, guys. This is so important. And I explained to Todd and Lee before we hit record, guys, that I needed to play this 5.5-minute clip with Candace Owens and Alex Jones. This will be the most important 5.5 minutes you might ever watch. Please pass it along. Spread it far and wide. Sit a normie down. Sit an NPC down and make them watch this so they understand that if this woman gets implanted, this is who she is. And just consider what you heard in that Patrick Byrne clip. Obama's team is in place. Obama's folks will be running the show when Kamala gets in. Well, who is Obama? Barry Soetoro, a creation of the CIA, quite literally. Check into the birth certificate. Now, with that said, this is Kamala Harris, folks. Is she an MK Ultra CIA asset? By the way, Todd, Lee, please interrupt. I'll pause it at any point.
Kamala is a candidate that the elites want because she is a vessel. And if you've watched any part of my series, I had a journalist on who was the editor of the Japan Times, who knew her and ran circles in San Francisco, same as Judge Joe Brown. And they spoke about her track record, how she was working on behalf of the cartels. And he also intimated to me that her mother was working on behalf of the MK Ultra program for the CIA. So you have this woman who has she's just like a blank vessel. She can be whatever you tell her to be at any day that you tell her to be.
And by the way, this sounds shocking to people that aren't well informed about history. Theodore Kaczynski, LA Times, New York Times, was in the MK Ultra program. It's been proven that Charlie Manson was in it. It just goes on that, and that was just one area that the Frank Church Committee got into in the late 70s. That was just a pinhole into a larger universe. And that's what I believe about Kamala from the picture we see, like Tim Walz, clear communist Chinese agent. It's all come out. Confucius Society, all of it. Sex operative controller, all of it. You look at Kamala, exactly. MK Ultra, sex operative cutout. The way she sometimes can be smart, usually really dumb, different personalities. I've thought this privately. Since you said it, I'm going to go ahead and say it. She has the perfect signature of someone that's been through trauma-based mind control.
That's exactly what the journalist said. And he knew her parents. I mean, he knew her mother.
Okay, well, I've been following you, but I didn't know this. Everybody's been calling me saying, you got to get Candace on. I'm going to shut up then. Start over. This is huge.
Yeah, so this is a journalist. You can watch this on my YouTube page, guys. You can head over to the live tab. And we had on Yoichi Shimatsu. He's a Japan editor, and he had written this piece about how her mother was in the MK Ultra program. He personally hates Kamala because a person that helped her get through law school, who was his protege, wound up dead in extremely, extremely suspect circumstances. That man's name was Jeff Adachi. He made an enemy of the San Francisco mafia, and he wound up dead with some very suspicious things happening at the medical examiner's office. It was a huge scandal. And so he basically wrote this piece out of exasperation and anger. And he said, people do not realize what she is. Her mother worked at a hospital in, I want to say Montreal, in Montreal, where they were running the MK Ultra program. And he was speaking extensively about how she was brought over because she was very good with apes. And at this time is when you had like Jane Goodall, and you had, they were really interested in experimenting on apes in order to determine what they could do to humans psychologically. And so she got drafted into the MK Ultra program. Now, I know that the depictions that she tells you about her childhood are not real because, Alex, I don't know if you know this, but while I've been doing this series, Kamala's family members reached out, the ones that are not communists, to verify that she's been lying about her genealogy and said her mother was extremely strict on her. Those girls were run like a military, probably because it was a military program. It was a CIA program. And so it is extremely alarming that this guy comes out, he tells you he's from the same circles as Kamala Harris. No one has been able to debunk anything that he has said. And it does look like when you see where her mother worked, and you are familiar with the MK Ultra program, which, like you said, you can look this up on Wikipedia. This is not a conspiracy. That Kamala may have been drafted into that program. It's quite terrifying.
And unlike most headquarters being Virginia or D.C. or Maryland for other federal programs, San Francisco is the recognized world headquarters of MK Ultra and its privatization operations. Correct. That came out in the Senate hearings in the 70s.
And, the reality is that the governments fear this. They fear the public becoming notified about the history of their own government, because most people can't comprehend these sorts of evils. You can't comprehend a government that would drug people into raping children and then watch those people who were completely drugged and had no idea where they were, what they were doing, be electrocuted in the electric chair like Jolly West did. You can't comprehend that level of evil. But this is the reality that we face. These are disturbed, demented individuals who have done things.
She's right.
And if we don't awaken to that, we're never going to be able to combat the threat that looms. And in my opinion, Kamala, and by the way, her family members told me her father, Donald Harris, was a dyed-in-the-wool Marxist. He attended Marxist meetings from a time that he was young, secretive Marxist meetings in Jamaica, and was traveling all over the world to South America, spent a ton of time in Brazil, being trained as a Marxist.
Well, he was a communist on record.
Professor.
He was a communist on record.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. And so to know that is her father, that her mother was involved in the MK Ultra program, for people not to recognize, just consider your common sense here. What kind of a human being do you have to be to present a book where you lie about your own genealogy and use black women that are not your grandmothers to try to signal to the public that you're black? You have to have no soul. There's nothing, you can lie and feel absolutely nothing. She has done this, right? So take what she's done and what we've uncovered and apply that to what she'd be willing to do if she actually was given full power. But over and over again, you're seeing that these people almost seem like they've had information downloaded into them, and Kamala sometimes breaks character unexpectedly. And so I am inclined to believe the journalist who knew a lot about her mother and MK Ultra program and her involvement in it. It certainly hasn't been disputed by anyone in the public. And if with the amount of people watching this series about Kamala, they would normally race to dispute something like this in election time. It seems more like they're deciding to, if you say nothing and just get to election day, we don't have to respond to any of these claims. But I'm not letting go. They're absolutely going to have to respond to this, because this woman is dangerous. I'm telling you, she is incredibly dangerous.
They're not going to respond to that. They really are. When have they? Doctor, I want to know from your perspective, how is it that we get people to confront the truth? I feel like we're going through this, phase of getting slapped across the face, but at what point is there enough for people to recognize the truth for what it is? These are beyond sociopaths. They're demons. They lie like it's drinking water. And what's up with that guy biting children? I mean, seriously, is this some freaky fetish?
Can I weigh in before Lee speaks?
Please.
Lee, before you respond, let me just fill you guys in. Not only was he putting the feet of babies in his mouth on Halloween, his wife, Jill, dressed up in a panda outfit and came out in a panda costume. So it's all in our faces. The problem, Todd, is the normies don't know what that means. The normies don't know that these people do the dark things they do. If I even say it, people aren't going to believe me. Okay? They do diddle children, and that is the least of it. The worst of it is eating babies. I'm not kidding, guys. In the panda thing, evidently, if you rape a child, they get bruising around their eyes like a panda bear. Okay, this is well known by people who have followed this thing and sussed it out with Pizzagate, Petagate. The research is clear. It's real. She came out in a panda costume on Halloween, and then her husband is sticking the feet of babies in his mouth.
Well, it just takes your breath away, because people with a soul, a conscience, a moral compass, and normal psychological function literally cannot comprehend the enormity of this depravity and evil and the sadism and cruelty that's involved here. These people are at the far end of the continuum of sadomasochistic evil. And I would say, I agree with Todd, that I think many are demon possessed. I think that is real. I know that the Catholic priests, many are trained in exorcism of demons. The Bible talks about it. Jesus talked about it. Our Protestant churches in America today pretend it doesn't exist, but it does exist. In fact, I went to an incredible conference in 1984 on the neuropsychiatric aspects of voodoo, the occult, and the demonic possession that is practiced in Haiti. And this conference was held in the Dominican Republic with people who knew the local culture and knew how they did it. It's a spiritual battle, but it's also use of drugs and toxins. They were using tetrodotoxin, which is derived from the pufferfish. And we were studying this and how that affects the neuropsychiatric function of people to create zombies and people who are willing to carry out heinous acts. They've been doing that in the practices of voodoo and zombieism for hundreds of years and using natural toxins. Imagine the capability. And this was something I studied in 1984. That's 40 years ago. I want everyone to be clear about that. This is not related to current events. In fact, I just found my conference notebook and I'm going back through the notes, and it's really quite chilling. But imagine how this expands under the extraordinarily sophisticated technology and designer drugs that have been developed by the CIA and others since 1984, and the conference that was talking about using natural toxins that occur at venoms and pufferfish and others that are neurotoxic. So it's really fascinating to think about what we knew then versus the expansion of all of this by the CIA.
Exactly. And Doc, you and I have been talking about this for a long time as it relates to electronic warfare and how EMF signals, all the way in the 60s, I think the Defense Intelligence Agency stole this technology from the Russians, and they were affecting people with very low EMF. And now, of course, we understand that you don't need these silly wires going in and out of people's brains. The nanobots are already there. They're completely programmable. If you haven't seen James Giordano, he's a professor at Georgetown University, talk about this. They've had it for a long time. Why should we possibly consider these people to be normal humans? I mean, they're completely programmable if the CIA at all want them to be.
And I think that's why it's so hard for normal people to understand, because I do think that there's unequivocal evidence going back longevity-wise in practices like I just described in indigenous cultures in different parts of the world, but also in the weaponization of our government efforts, and not just America. It's clearly been going on in communist China, communist Russia, and other countries around the world, and through their military and intelligence communities. But I think that's why it's so hard for normal people to understand, because these are not normal people. Their neuropsychiatric cognitive conscience function has been usurped and is overtaken by drug effects and by other mind control techniques, including EMF.
In trauma-based.
And trauma is part of that. Yes.
Yeah, trauma-based mind control, MK Ultra. The charge here is that Kamala Harris is a Marxist by genealogy, and her family, that's what her dad stood for. And beyond that, she is an MK Ultra programmed asset. And I've been saying for a long time before Candace did all that great research, that Kamala is an empty vessel. I kept saying that repeatedly. She's an empty vessel so clearly. Todd, go ahead.
We have to guess this. Seriously. Let's just look at it so simply. How did she get to be the nominee for the Democratic Party? How did that happen?
Everything has been given to her whole life. That's even what Candace said.
She was literally slotted into this position, no different than Mr. Obama was slotted into the position. Years in the making. They're just bots. That's all they are.
To that very point, Todd, and I haven't been able to find the article, but there was an article in a financial newsletter that I read more than 10 years ago, and they predicted at the time Kamala Harris would be a president of the United States. And I thought to myself at the time, I hadn't even heard of her at that point. And this financial, it was a very well-respected financial publication. And I was shocked by that. And it was so clearly laid out that it almost gave me cold chills, but then it disappeared. I never saw any more about it until suddenly she comes on the scene as Biden's vice president.
Was that the Rothschild's Economist magazine, I wonder?
Probably. No, because that was not one I subscribed to. It was one that I was subscribing to, and those were more along the lines of people that talked about importance of gold and the fiat currency and manipulation by the central bankers. There were about 5 or 6 that I subscribed to at that time. And that was one of that genre of financial experts, not on the Rothschild side of the spectrum at all.
Well, that's an impossible pick. That's an impossible pick, yes, unless it's made to happen, obviously. So much is done in world politics. So this is Glenn Beck, being a little bit worried about that DoD Directive 5240.01. And so he and his team reached out to the Pentagon, and the Pentagon said nothing to see here. So why did they do an election war game? What do they have planned for election day after? Listen.
This is a recent fact check done by the University of Washington. They state that, quote, the spread of this story is due to a data void. In other words, nobody's telling anything, so we don't know, so people speculate. At any rate, I find it suspicious, given the left's recent January 6th war game and what they discussed. Were these revisions made because of this war game? Just to reiterate one more time, everyone was briefed, including the Pentagon and Congress and the White House. Is there something being planned for Certification Day? I don't think so, but I don't know anymore.
They're having, by the way, I don't know if you saw this, a cyber event on the election day. On Tuesday, they're having a cybersecurity event. What is it that they did? An event in 9/11 on the very same day. It was about kidnapping and taking over airplanes and all that stuff. They're doing the exact same thing on Tuesday, and then we wonder if they're planning something. Really? Come on. Of course they are. It's absurd.
Well, here's the thing. So you know how I've been saying, guys, that if they had succeeded on July 13th in Butler, Pennsylvania with their dastardly, nefarious plan of killing the president in the wide open for everybody to see, had we been on that timeline, had they been successful and we were on that timeline, the country would have already been lost. We would be in such chaos that I don't think it would have been beyond repair. Well, I wonder if the same will be true. Will we be on an equally dark timeline if after the election they literally claim that she won and they move forward with the process of implanting her as president? We'll be on that same dark timeline. I guess the only good news is President Trump will hopefully still be alive and somebody will fight this. Because otherwise, what's it going to be, Todd? Civil war?
No, but that's dangerous. Right? This is the dangerous part. This is how we got here. Is somebody is going to do something? No. It's either we do something or not at all. There is nobody coming to save us, and I hope Mr. Trump survives this because people will fall in on him. And I can tell you that also from the military perspective, there are a lot of people ready to don their uniforms. They're on ready reserve. They're waiting to be called to duty, including a whole lot of National Guard people who will fall in on him, irrespective of what happens with the election. That is what is dangerous here. In so much as that either outcome is fine for the other side. A civil war is just great. Kamala in place, just great. Either way, they win, and that's the typical paradigm they want. So the key to this thing is to stop the steal by a show of force. If all of America comes out, they can't even make the argument that they won, right? And the key to it from after that point of view is for the people wearing badges and guns and the people with the battle dress uniforms on to ignore all orders that arise from that lady and from the White House. And I think effectively the Capitol moves to Mar-a-Lago.
Sorry for this quick interruption and a quick word about a sponsor. Okay, so it's no secret that we're all aging, and we've been told our whole lives that wrinkle creams are the easiest way to look younger. Now one doctor says that's nothing but old news. According to John Lakey, the world-renowned Beverly Hills beauty expert, most wrinkle fixes on the market are nothing but glorified moisturizers. Recently, Dr. Lakey has focused attention away from mainstream cosmetic practices. Why? So he can pursue a revolutionary anti-aging breakthrough. His personal clients have dubbed his new do-it-yourself technique the Age Rewinder Method. In light of this breakthrough, Dr. Lakey has released a step-by-step video to the public, free and uninterrupted, where he outlines exactly how to use this simple solution from home. The video has since gone viral. At first, it was shared by users on Facebook, but since then, it's racked up over 2.3 million views and counting. You can find out more about this yourself right now by going to bhmd1.com/SGT or click the link in the description below. That's bhmd1.com/SGT. If watching this video helps you look and feel younger than you have in years, then please share this video with your friends and loved ones. Together, we have the power to help as many women reclaim a youthful look as possible. And I would say dudes too. Go watch the video at bhmd1.com/SGT right now, or just click the link. I'll leave it below.
And I think effectively the capital moves to Mar-a-Lago.
Todd and Sean, to that very point, and Sean, when it's appropriate, I'd really like to share with you and your audience a call to action that I just worked hard on for our own program this week, entitled Liberation Day or Descent into Tyranny. Your vote is your answer.
Yeah.
And it really is a call to action, because to your point of show of force, Todd, it was a recent post from a very reputable source who is engaged in the evangelical Christian community. And he reported that 32 million Christians are considering not voting in this election. You know, well, I don't like Donald Trump. He tweets mean tweets, or he's been divorced, or I don't like Kamala Harris. So whimpering about whether you like a personality and sitting home on the most obvious clear choice between good and evil is the failure of every Christian value you claim to uphold and every biblical commandment. And so my call to action to all of the listeners today is, I would say to all of the Christians out there who call yourself a Christian, are you really going to let harsh language and mean tweets or somebody's personal flaws, because we all have them, prevent you from voting? Would Christ be proud of you standing on the sidelines for what you just heard about a Marxist who believes in killing babies at full term, capable of living outside the womb and sitting out this most important vote? No, I don't think so. Christ himself held the Pharisees accountable over and over. He called out the money changers. He turned over their tables in the temple. Christ gave us a call to action in his own actions. And let me tell you, all of you sitting on the sideline out there, God has left this election in our hands. In some ways, Todd and Sean and I have said God voted on July 13th. We know God saved President Trump's life by millimeters, by a miracle. And
by a miracle.
That was God's hand expressing his anointing of the person to uphold biblical values for this nation. But God's left the rest in our hands, and 32 million of you or 25 million of you sitting at home, you're going to cost us our lives, our livelihood, and our country by your failure to act. And if you, 32 million of you, are going to let this election be determined by the fraud that Sean has just shown you, the tip of the iceberg in clips that are coming from all over the country. I've been following it as well. We could overcome that fraud if all of you get off your couch and your duff and get off your high horse in religiosity and get out there and cast a vote. And if you're thinking I'm calling out a candidate for you to support. I'm not. I'm talking about praying and listening to God's guidance, do the right thing, cast a righteous vote, choose between good and evil. And if you're struggling about just exactly what that is, let me give you a few of my reasons. And these are my personal reasons. I'm not speaking as president of the foundation or as a physician saying to my patients, here's what you should do. I am speaking as a constitutional conservative Christian who looks at what the Bible says we should do. I'm voting for the First Amendment and the freedom of speech and to speak my opinion. I've been censored. I've been shut down trying to help my patients. I'm speaking for all of those reasons. I'm voting for the Second Amendment to defend right to life and liberty as God gave us, as is spelled out in the Bible, as is spelled out in our Constitution. I'm voting for secure borders, otherwise we don't exist. And you can only stuff so many people in this country without all of us suffering. I'm voting for election integrity. I'm voting for the right to have law and order, as we always have. I'm voting for personal responsibility and stop all this nonsense about, well, the government needs to take care of this, or my insurance company needs to pay for this, or, well, I can't do this because somebody with a badge decides to exercise their petty tyrant role and say, I can't wear a shirt into a voting booth. You know what? The elderly lady who got told that, regardless of what she looked like, she took off her Trump shirt and voted in her bra.
Love that.
That is action. Get off your duff, you Christians who call yourself, you're Pharisees, like Jesus was calling out. And I'm voting for the Electoral College to be maintained. I'm voting for the next Supreme Court justices. I'm voting for federal judges who don't follow their Marxist, socialist, social justice garbage. I'm voting to keep our jobs in America. I'm voting to be energy independent that we were before the last 4 years. And I'm voting to do away with this learned helplessness and government dependency that has been fostered on steroids under Obama, Biden, and under Biden, Harris, Obama administrations. So look at the fact that, and also voting to keep men out of women's sports and stop mutilating children under the guise of a medical disorder. It is not. It is horrific mutilation and destruction of our children. And I'm voting for the military and the veterans who fought for our country. These are all principles that we get to vote for in this election. Voting for peace. I'm voting to fight against all of the aspects of the war on children, the rape, slave, trafficking horror that's going on our borders, what's happening in Texas and Arizona, New Mexico, and all over the country. And I'm voting for education to get back to the basics and stop being a social justice brainwashing exercise. I want to vote for America to survive as a constitutional republic as God inspired our founders. And that means life, liberty, and equal justice under the law for everyone, not the elites and powerful and rich. So if you can't find some positive principles and biblical reasons from that list I just spelled off, that's my list, then I would say you have a real problem. And you better go get right with God and get your action in place for this election day, because there won't be a second chance.
Well, Sean, I just wish that she'd tell everybody how she really feels about it.
No, amen. Now, let's give her a clap on that one.
Yay!
The people, the Christians that are standing down, the Christians who are refusing to vote, the Christians that are on the fence. I'm glad you brought it up. I didn't know if you're going to get there. The human trafficking.
Yeah.
This is a vote against human trafficking. This is a vote against child sex slavery.
Yes.
There's 350,000 kids missing, according to the DHS, that have come over the border under the watch of this administration, and they've vanished. They've been sold. President Trump has told the truth about this. He said the ones that haven't been sold are probably already dead. The only truth you're going to get anymore from government is from the new administration under Donald J. Trump, if we're ever going to get truth again at all. Because we know we're never going to get truth from the horror mainstream media, now selling another lie to the people as they try to rig this election. Fake news inventing new outrage, suggesting that Trump said that Liz Cheney should be executed. Well, let's see what he really said.
And Cheney was he said, I really want to thank you. He said, now I'm so glad that I actually endorsed you. It's amazing, but that you would do this. And I didn't speak to him about it. But then, go a couple of years forward or go now. And I don't blame him for sticking with his daughter, but his daughter is a very dumb individual, very dumb. She's a radical war hawk. Let's put her with a rifle standing there with 9 barrels shooting at her, okay? Let's see how she feels about it. When the guns are trained on her face. They're all war hawks when they're sitting in Washington in a nice building saying, oh, gee, let's send 10,000 troops right into the mouth of the enemy. But she's a stupid person. And I'd have meetings with a lot of people, and she always wanted to go to war with people. So whether it's her, whether it's Dick, I was surprised a little bit with Dick Cheney. I didn't know him at all.
He might have gone a little bit too far there, because I think what he was trying to say is put her in harm's way. She wants to go to all these wars, then maybe she should fight them. But the way it came out, it almost sounds a little bit like a firing squad. But with that said, I think she's a treacherous viper. And what is the penalty for treason? So that's me saying it, not Donald J. Trump. But guys, I got to tell you, this is the line in the sand. America will fall if they implant Kamala Harris on November 5th or after. I can't believe we're having this conversation.
It's not just America.
A few days away, Todd.
Yeah, and it's not just America. We are the last domino to fall. And
yes.
This is it, right? This is actually the deciding moment for our species. It's nothing short of that, because without us in the way, without us taking back our dominion, our control, our first through 24 amendments, actually, Doctor, if we don't take all of those back and assert them, then they are forever lost. Any other country, any other person, any other country has zero chance of overcoming it. Why? Because at the end of the day, if we say no, it's backed up by guns. The only question is whether we really mean it, whether we're going to show up, whether we are going to stand for this. And that's my point, is look, they're going to steal it. They're already stealing the election. The question is, what are we going to do about it? So at the very minimum, if you want to be peaceful, show up in force so that you can explain to them graphically, with us being there, we're not taking it. And that should prevent a shooting war. If we don't show up, they're just going to keep taking. And that's it. You will have abdicated your life and that of our species hereafter.
You're right about the impact around the world, Todd. I just did a new patient consult for a gentleman from Thailand yesterday. And he said that, and Thailand, of course, has good ties with the U.S. We have a military base there. He is Canadian, who was a health data analyst and medical IT person in Canada, fired because he ended up, he was forced to get the COVID shot, and then he developed severe neurologic complications that have to this day not been properly evaluated or treated, which is why he consulted me. And he said that the whole country of Thailand right now is on pins and needles waiting to see what happens in the United States, because it affects their lives. And I have lived and worked in Chile, and I have friends there who say the same thing. South America, Argentina, many others are looking to, people in Europe are looking to us to hold the line, to defend freedom and constitutional rights, and to exert America's influence as a force for good that we have been to a large extent in the past. And I agree with the fact that with President Trump's point that we've been engaged in useless wars to support the military-industrial complex. No question about that, and I don't support that. But overall, the people who've served in our military have been people of good heart, trying to do the right thing and trying to go in and follow orders to liberate a country and not occupy it as the British did or other countries do. So I do think that we are the last beacon of liberty in the world.
Yes, we are. And, it's interesting, Doc, as you're saying that, I'm sitting here, remembering back to when we first started working together, and all of the troops in the DoD had to confront the fact that they were being poisoned by their leadership. It was a suicide order. What are you going to do? And thank God enough people stood and said, no, it's an illegal order. I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to force it on others. My hope is that they'll remember that was the decision before them, was a do or die. And the question today is, are you going to do that or not? Are you going to fall in on this lady who's already stolen the election, or are you going to fall in on the guy who says freedom reigns?
Oh,
I think we lost Dr. Vliet.
Yeah.
I got you, Sean. I got you.
He dropped.
I don't know what happened. I
got you. You're back. You're back.
I suddenly it was gone.
Yep. You're spot on, Todd, 100%. And as we round out the conversation, we'll just remind people, this is what you're going to get another 4 years. It may not be this clown, but Kamala and her husband, they're no better, maybe worse even than Biden. But Jill Biden dressed up as a giant panda for Halloween. This is very disturbing, especially given the facts surrounding what panda eyes means in regards to children. To throw more disgust on the situation, Joe Biden literally nibbled on a few babies. You can't make this.
Sean, I'm sorry to argue with you because I admire you and I love you so much. If she's allowed to get away with this, it's not 4 more years. It's forever more. There won't be another election. They've already telegraphed this, that we don't need to vote because artificial intelligence knows what's best for us. This is it. This is a do or die. There is no 4 more years. I
agree. And for most of us who have been on the conservative side supporting the Constitution and our constitutional republic, we will be likely executed. I don't have any doubt about that.
None at all. They've already said they're going to do it. They said re-education camps, if you can't be re-educated, you have to be terminated. That's in their plans. And let us remember, please, 1994 Cairo population accords happened. They agreed to get rid of 7 billion people. We are in the middle of an eradication program right now. This is it. People are dying left, right, and center. Doctor, you know that better than anybody.
Absolutely.
Because we've already been poisoned. And the people who poisoned us, right? Where have we been for the last 4 years, right? Who was it that actually forced the shots on you? Was it Mr. Trump or was it not? And I've had to reconcile this thought myself, Doctor. Look, he's the guy that funded it, but he's not the guy that mandated it.
Well, that's right. And actually, there is a different perspective that by pushing it, that President Trump knew he couldn't stop it, but there is a perspective on his actions from those I trust on the inside in DC that were working inside at the time, that he did make the hard decision that if he pushed it forward more rapidly than they intended, that a faster timeline would cause them to make mistakes and have variation in production, and it would not have the full impact that it was intended to have. And I think we saw that happen. I think the batch variation that Sasha Radikova talked about, I think the lawsuit gave the mandates gave time for the lawsuit that you started and others. I think the acceleration of the time frame may ultimately have saved lives in spite of the fact that there have been so many deaths.
Undoubtedly, this is true also from the perspective of his mere existence alone. You can see that none of the plans which they're carrying out, none of them match, right? They're just out of place and out of time. And I maintain that by his existence alone for those 4 years gave us the shot that we have today.
I think so.
Shot. One last shot at the salvation of our species. This is it.
Yep.
I think you're right.
Right. Yep. Well, we know how dire the times are. We have to pray for divine intervention at this point, because they are going to pull out all the stops, and they don't care if they get caught, because evidently they've got the military on their side, they think, with that
I don't think so.
directive. That's what they think. So let's pray.
I don't think so.
Well, Sean, we need to pray, and we need to act in faith. Sitting back on the sidelines praying is not going to be the action that God is calling us to do our part in this world. Go back to the Epistle of James, where he wrote, faith without works is a dead faith. You as believers, every one of you listening, I've already voted. Have you? If you have not, get your butt out there and vote. Vote your conscience, vote your biblical principles, and do not be silent in the face of evil, period. Pray and act.
Amen. Faith over fear. All right, so shout out your website and tell us anything else you'd like to tell the audience, Lee.
Truthforhealth.org, and listen to my latest podcast, Liberation Day or Descent into Tyranny. Your vote is your choice. That's our title, and it gives you a whole range of reasons to vote in faith and act, as well as pray. And then we have lots of choices for health and resilience and emergency preparedness, vaccine injury, and more. So check out our website, use our resources, and get strong, be bold, and have courage, as well as act in faith.
Very good. I will leave a link below to truthforhealth.org. You guys can check out the nutraceuticals and all the other good stuff over there. Great information at truthforhealth.org. And Todd, my understanding is you're going live on election night, and I'm happy to come over and join. I was invited to do so. Tell me about the format. How many people? How long are you going to be doing it? Tell us what's going on.
Yeah, thank you for that. So Clout Hub, obviously, where it's at. This is at Clout Hub 2, by the way, commercial free. We don't interrupt people talking with stupid commercials. This is important stuff. It's information that has to be gotten out. And this is the point. 100 or so of your favorite personalities, you two, of course, are going to be there, or at least invited to. Dr. Fleet, I don't know if we've heard, but okay, so we're going to, I'll get a hold of Jamie. The point of which is we've got a lot of our friends that are very similarly minded. We're going to get together and have a continuous chat as the election results come in. And I think it's an opportunity for us to further plan what are we going to do as we're watching this unfold. So it'll be 6 o'clock on Clout Hub. Please be there. Sean, I'm looking forward to you being there. Dr. Fleet, you are the voices of reason. God bless you for what it is you do. The reason we're here is because of people like you saying it, educating others, and getting the word out.
Well, Lee, I hope you can join too. I don't know that I can be on.
Well, I haven't been invited.
No, okay, I'll get hold of Jamie. You're on the list, Doctor.
I saw the list, but my name wasn't on it. So
dear Lord.
I figured you didn't want me there.
No, gosh, no. Are you kidding me? You're one of my besties. All right. We'll change that.
Thanks for joining us today, guys. You know, we joked about this a month ago, and we said we're going to have another meeting, one of our biweekly meetings, just a couple of days before the election. And our next one in 2 weeks is, oh boy, either we're all going to be filled with a despair or the opposite of despair, I guess is what I'd say. I just hope we're not on that timeline. Well, I was going to say joy, but that's the stupid word they're using. The Democrat Party at their convention kept using the word joy.
I didn't watch it. I wouldn't know.
You know, Sean, we may not have answers in 2 weeks, because I think the whole point of what is planned by the powers seeking to disrupt this election is to create chaos for the foreseeable immediate future. And I think that they've already been telling us that. So we may or may not know. And I would say to everyone, continue to have faith that ultimately God is in control, and don't sink into despair, because that's what they want us to do.
True.
100%. 100%. All right. Well, we'll see. I think God's got a plan here, right? God must have a plan here. So we'll see what that plan is. And we'll know a lot more in 2 weeks when Lee and Todd return to the show. Guys, thanks so much for joining us today. Todd, thanks.
Always my pleasure. It's really an honor. God bless you both. Thanks for having me.
All right, God bless you. And Lee, thank you so much. Take care.
You're welcome, Sean and Todd, two of my favorites. And thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, and God bless you all for tuning in. We appreciate you. Spread this far and wide, especially that clip of Candace telling the truth and doing all that great research. She found out that the picture that Kamala presented to the world of her and her grandma, a black grandma, that's not her grandma. That's a lie. It's a total lie. Everything about the woman's background, Kamala's background, is a total lie. It's a fable, a lot like Barry Soetoro's background. Friends, thanks so much for tuning in. I'll remind you every single day, check us out to get the real news, the antidote to corporate propaganda 24/7 at sgtreport.com. I'll leave all the links below. And until next time, God bless. Bye-bye.
The simple fact of the matter is, Sean, if you got cancer, you don't cut out half of it. You cut out all of it. So this is a cancer, and this needs to be eliminated. It's not like you could say, what do you do and can we negotiate this? There is no negotiating with these people.